Most Toyota owners treat their transmission the same way they treat smoke detectors. They never think about it until something goes wrong. Your Toyota's automatic transmission is one of the most expensive components in the entire vehicle, and it will give you zero warning before it starts failing. No check engine light, no dramatic noise, just a slow, invisible breakdown that turns a $150 service into a $4,500 rebuild. In this video, I am going to show you exactly what needs to happen to your Toyota transmission before 60,000 miles and why skipping even one of these steps puts the entire unit at risk. Step number 7 alone is something almost no Toyota dealer will tell you about, but it is one of the single biggest reasons transmissions fail before 100,000 miles. Let us get into it. Step 1. Change the transmission fluid, even if Toyota says you don't have to. This is where the damage starts for most Toyota owners. Toyota calls it lifetime fluid on several automatic transmission models, including some RAV4, Camry, and Highlander variants. That phrase is one of the most misleading things in the automotive industry. What it actually means is the fluid is designed to last the life of the transmission, not the life of the car. When the transmission fails, the fluid has technically done its job. Here is what is actually happening inside your Toyota automatic transmission. The transmission fluid serves 3 functions simultaneously. It lubricates every moving gear, clutch pack, and bearing inside the unit. It acts as hydraulic fluid that physically shifts the gears through a series of solenoids and control valves inside the valve body, and it carries heat away from the clutch packs and torque converter during operation. When that fluid degrades, all 3 functions weaken at the same time. Toyota's world standard automatic transmission fluid, the red fluid that comes factory-filled in most Toyota automatics, is an excellent product. But after 40,000 to 60,000 miles of heat cycling, gear engagement, and microscopic metal particles shed from normal wear, it becomes contaminated. That contamination does not protect, it abrades. Dark brown or black transmission fluid is not just old, it is acidic. It carries suspended metal particles, and it is actively damaging the solenoids and clutch surfaces every single time you drive. The correct service interval for Toyota automatic transmissions in real-world driving conditions is between 30,000 and 45,000 miles. If you are doing a lot of stop-and-go city driving, towing, or driving in hot climates, lean toward 30,000. Never exceed 60,000 miles on original fluid, regardless of what any service bulletin says. Step 2. Never do a full flush on a high-mileage transmission. This is where people destroy transmissions trying to save them. If your Toyota has over 80,000 miles on it and has never had a transmission service, do not walk into a shop and ask for a full transmission flush. Here is why. Inside a neglected transmission, old degraded fluid forms a varnish layer on clutch pack surfaces and on solenoid passages. That varnish has actually become part of the friction equation. When a power flush forces entirely new fluid through at high pressure, it strips that varnish layer off all at once. Clutch packs that were slipping just slightly begin slipping severely. Solenoids that were partially restricted suddenly lose all flow resistance and start misbehaving. What felt like a normal driving transmission before the service can then feel like it is hunting for gears, surging, or shuddering. The correct approach on a high-mileage Toyota is a drain and fill, not a flush. Remove the drain plug on the transmission oil pan. Allow the old fluid to drain naturally. Reinstall the drain plug with a new crush washer and refill with Toyota genuine world standard automatic transmission fluid or a fully compatible equivalent to specification. This replaces roughly 40 to 50% of the fluid in one service. Repeat this process 2 more times at 3,000-mile intervals. That graduated dilution approach gently transitions the transmission to fresh fluid without shocking the internal components. Step 3. Inspect and clean the transmission oil pan and filter at the first service. Most Toyota automatic transmissions have a serviceable filter and a removable oil pan. Located directly underneath the transmission oil pan is a metal reservoir that holds a portion of the fluid and protects the valve body from road debris. Inside that pan, sitting above the fluid level, is the transmission filter, a mesh screen designed to catch metal particles and debris before they circulate through the valve body. On your first transmission service before 60,000 miles, the oil pan should come off. This inspection reveals information that no scan tool can provide. A small amount of fine metallic dust on the magnet inside the pan is normal. That magnet is a deliberate feature Toyota includes to capture ferrous particles from normal gear wear. However, if that magnet has a thick, chunky buildup that looks more like dark paste than dust, or if there are visible metal flakes larger than a grain of sand, that transmission is already generating abnormal wear. Address that before it becomes catastrophic. The filter should be replaced at this interval as well. A clogged transmission filter reduces hydraulic pressure to the solenoids and clutch packs. Low hydraulic pressure causes delayed shifts, harsh shifts, and over time, burned clutch packs. A new filter restores proper fluid flow and takes pressure off every downstream component. Step 4. Check the transmission cooler lines for heat damage. Your Toyota's transmission generates extreme heat during normal operation, especially in hot climates or during towing. To manage that heat, Toyota routes the transmission fluid through a transmission cooler, either a dedicated external cooler or a section inside the engine radiator, using 2 rubber and metal transmission cooler lines that connect the transmission to the cooler. These lines run alongside the engine block and down toward the front of the vehicle on most Toyota models. On Camry, Corolla, and RAV4 models, the lines typically run toward the passenger side of the engine bay. On Tacoma and Tundra models, they often route toward the front crossmember. Before 60,000 miles, inspect the full length of both transmission cooler lines for cracking, swelling, or weeping fluid. The rubber sections dry out and crack from years of heat cycling. A pinhole leak in a transmission cooler line can drop fluid pressure fast enough to burn clutch packs within a single drive. Unlike an oil leak that drips on your driveway, a transmission cooler line leak often drips onto hot exhaust components and burns off invisibly. If the lines show any surface cracking, or the rubber feels stiff and brittle rather than firm and flexible, replace them. The part's cost is minimal. The labor to rebuild a transmission that cooked itself from fluid starvation is not. Step 5. Verify your transmission fluid level correctly. This sounds straightforward. It is not. Toyota automatic transmissions require a very specific process to get an accurate fluid level reading, and most owners do it incorrectly. The transmission fluid level on a Toyota automatic must be checked with the engine fully warmed up, the vehicle on a level surface, and the gear selector cycled through every position before checking. Many Toyota transmissions do not have a traditional dipstick. Models like the 8-speed automatic found in the Camry, RAV4, and Highlander use a check plug on the transmission case itself rather than a dipstick tube. On these models, the fluid level is verified through a small check hole on the side of the transmission housing. Checking the fluid on a cold transmission, on an uneven surface, or without cycling through all gear positions, gives a false reading. Too little fluid causes overheating and pressure loss. Too much fluid causes the rotating internal parts to churn the fluid into foam, and foamy fluid provides almost no hydraulic protection. Either condition produces the same result. Premature transmission failure. If you are unsure whether your specific Toyota model uses a dipstick or a check plug system, look along the driver's side of the transmission housing for a threaded plug. If no dipstick tube is visible in the engine bay near the firewall on the passenger side, your vehicle uses the check plug method. Have this inspected by a technician at your first service if you are not comfortable doing it yourself. Step 6. Inspect the transmission wiring harness and solenoid connectors. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It helps me bring you more of this honest car content. This step gets skipped even by experienced technicians. The solenoids inside your Toyota automatic transmission physically control gear selection and torque converter lockup. They operate on electrical signals from the transmission control module. Each solenoid has a wiring connector that passes through or around the transmission housing. Those connectors are exposed to the same heat, vibration, and road splash that everything else under your vehicle endures. Before 60,000 miles, the wiring harness along the outside of the transmission housing and the connectors that plug into the transmission case should be inspected for cracking insulation, corrosion at the pin contacts, or loose connection points. A failed solenoid connector does not always trigger a check engine light immediately. It can cause intermittent shift quality problems that come and go, a soft or late upshift under load, a slight hesitation going from park into drive, or a shudder during torque converter lockup at highway speeds. These symptoms are often misdiagnosed as internal mechanical problems, when the actual cause is a corroded electrical connector that costs less than $20 to replace. Step 7. Perform a throttle position and transmission. Relearn procedure after any major service. This is the step almost no one tells Toyota owners about, and it is responsible for an enormous number of post-service complaints about shift quality. Toyota automatic transmissions are not purely mechanical. They are adaptive systems. The transmission control module continuously learns your driving patterns, throttle inputs, braking behavior, and load conditions. It uses that learned data to time shifts, apply clutch pack pressure, and manage torque converter engagement. This adaptive data is stored in the transmission control module's long-term memory. When the transmission fluid is changed, when the battery is disconnected, or when the vehicle is worked on, that learned data can be partially or fully reset. When the module starts fresh with no adaptive data, it falls back on base calibration settings. Those base settings were written for an average driver in average conditions. If you drive differently, more aggressively, more conservatively, with heavier loads or at altitude, the base calibration will feel noticeably off. Shifts that feel harsh, delayed, or like the transmission is hunting for the right gear after a service are almost always adaptive, relearning in progress. The correct response is a specific relearn drive cycle. After a transmission service, drive the vehicle at normal speed. Accelerate gently from a stop through all gears without heavy throttle. Perform several moderate stops from highway speed. Allow the transmission to shift into every gear range, including overdrive, before any hard acceleration. This structured cycle gives the transmission control module the data it needs to rebuild its adaptive settings quickly. Most Toyota transmissions complete the primary relearn within 2 to 4 drive cycles. Forcing hard acceleration during this window actively writes bad data into the adaptive tables and extends the rough shift period. Step 8. Address any transmission trouble codes immediately, even small ones. Toyota's transmission control system monitors solenoid performance, fluid temperature, torque converter slip, and input and output shaft speed simultaneously. When any of these readings fall outside of normal range, even briefly, the system stores a diagnostic trouble code. Some of those codes illuminate the check engine light on the instrument cluster. Others are stored silently as pending codes that never trigger a warning. Before 60,000 miles, have the transmission control module scanned for pending and stored codes, even if the check engine light has never come on. A code for a solenoid performance issue, an intermittent input speed sensor signal, or a torque converter slip ratio. Outside specification might not be causing noticeable problems today. Left unaddressed for another 20,000 miles, that same condition becomes catastrophic clutch pack damage or a failed solenoid body. Toyota dealers and independent Toyota specialists can pull these codes with a standard OBD2 scan tool or a Toyota-specific diagnostic system. The scan itself takes less than 10 minutes. If pending transmission codes are present, diagnosing and repairing the cause at this stage costs a fraction of what a full transmission rebuild will cost when the problem finally forces itself to the surface. Step 9. Listen for the sounds a healthy Toyota transmission makes and the ones it does not. A Toyota automatic transmission in good condition is almost completely silent during normal operation. You should hear the engine, road noise, and wind. You should not hear the transmission. Before 60,000 miles, pay attention to 3 specific sounds. A whining or humming noise that changes pitch with vehicle speed and is not related to engine RPM is often a bearing wearing inside the transmission or torque converter. A clunk when engaging drive or reverse from park suggests worn or loose transmission mount hardware, which allows the transmission to physically impact the vehicle frame during gear engagement. A shudder or vibration during steady highway cruising that happens at the same speed every time often indicates torque converter clutch shudder caused by degraded fluid or a slipping torque converter clutch. None of these sounds are normal. None of them will fix themselves. All 3 are conditions that, if caught before 60,000 miles, can typically be resolved without removing the transmission from the vehicle. After those conditions worsen from continued driving, a complete transmission removal and rebuild becomes the only option. The Toyota transmission is one of the most reliable automatic transmissions ever built, but reliable does not mean maintenance-free. Every one of these steps works toward the same goal: keeping the fluid clean, the pressures correct, the electrical signals accurate, and the adaptive learning current. When all of those stay in range, a Toyota transmission can last 200,000 miles without drama. When even one of them is neglected past 60,000 miles, you are not looking at a repair anymore. You are looking at a replacement. Follow these steps, do them at the right intervals, and your Toyota's transmission will outlast almost everything else on the vehicle. If you are enjoying this content, go watch the next video where I am breaking down the exact maintenance schedule that takes Toyota engines past 300,000 miles.